the right way. Hello and welcome to the Right Report Week in Review. On the Week in Review here at the Right Report, we bring you weekly headline reports of homeless news and housing policy in the Denver metro area, and some occasional national items as well. The Week in Review consists of reading local headlines in my fancy sponsor announcer's voice, followed by a quick summary of its contents, and perhaps a comment from your host. That's me, Benjamin Wright. That's WRIGHT.
Wise guy, huh?
In addition to the Week in Review, we will also produce some in-depth reports on various news items as time and technology allow. To find other episodes, visit us on YouTube at The Right Report. That's WRIGHTREPORT. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We at The Right Report want you to be better informed by reviewing the news coverage of homelessness and housing policy, paying attention to how the coverage is framed, who framed it, hence the commentary, and with a little luck, have some fun along the way. So let's get it right with The Right Report. That's WRIGHT. Concentration of real estate agents in Colorado Springs is 3 times higher than the national rate. Local housing market has the worst April in years for homes sold. The number of real estate agents in the city is in decline. Those who remain stick with what works, cultivating relationships. Last year's Halloween party, posted by the Pikes Peak Association of Realtors, seemed a bit spookier than usual. Many attendees who had enjoyed the festivities the year before were missing, noticed Patrick Muldoon, president of real estate firm Muldoon Associates, with offices in Colorado Springs and Pueblo. Been a rough year, of course, for the industry nationwide. Interest rates had kept potential buyers and home sellers on the sidelines. Commentary. Real estate agents do not make their money buying and selling homes. They make their money processing the paperwork. That people are either in the process of buying or selling a property. As an industry, real estate agents are middlemen who work on commission. These people don't have flat rates, like it's going to cost you $500 to process this loan paperwork, because filing the paperwork is about the same no matter what the price of the home is. Instead, the realtor fee is a percentage of the sale price that gets rolled into the loan usually. So realtors want the price of the home to be as high as possible so their fee can be as high as possible. The banks like the higher cost of homes because the higher the balance of the loan, the more they make in interest payments for the next 30 years. And on it goes. Well, let's head down a little further into the article and get to the meat of this. But Colorado Springs has felt pain more than most, or at least by those hired to buy or sell a house. The concentration of real estate agents in and around the city is 3 times higher than the U.S. Commentary. Higher concentrations of real estate agents means more expensive properties. They all come to the same areas, salivating for their commissions on higher properties. Higher the concentration of real estate agents, the higher the likelihood that the price of properties are overinflated to begin with. And then, in competing with each other, they're just going to continue to inflate the cost of those properties so that their commissions can be as high as possible. That's what attracts the glut of agents in the first place. Tent ban in city parks goes into effect Wednesday. Slate of new rules in Grand Junction city parks that includes the banning of tents and other similar structures is set to go into effect today. Grand Junction City Council voted 5-1 last Wednesday to approve new rules with a 1-week delay. Scott Beelfuss voted against the measure and Jason Nugent was absent. The idea to ban tents was previously brought forward in February, but was struck down by City Council in a 5-2 vote, with only Anna Stout and Abe Herman in favor. Overnight camping is already prohibited in city parks. City council members who voted against the ban said it would disproportionately affect unhoused people. Duh. And that they would like the city have more interim shelter options for people who will no longer be able to stay in the parks with their tents. Commentary. Notice how they haven't told us what these interim options might be and what their availability is. This leads the general public, that they're trying to frighten, to assume that this interim stuff is actually available, when in truth, there's a gap between what's available and how many people have the need. That's the gap number again. They never seem to mention the gap number. That's the difference between what they have available to provide and what's actually needed. Let's get back to the article. However, the matter that was brought forth once more last week, with more backing from Grand Junction Police Department, imagine that, which said that there have been issues with people who have been intense in the parks lately. Well, what issues? Unmentioned. We have definitely seen a shift in dynamics in a lot of our parks over the last probably year and a half. And a lot of that is attributed to those areas where we've seen the structures and the tents, end quotes. Grand Junction Police Chief Matt Smith said, quote, I think people have become very territorial. We see just a different shift in the dynamics in these parks. Commentary. Issues. What issues? Are people not territorial when they set up a picnic table, perhaps with an awning for shade and tablecloths? People putting up tents for shade is the same thing that happens when people come to parks and set up for barbecues and stuff. Put up awnings, and it's all the same thing. Just looks different. And because it looks different to the general public, man, they got to go away and shame the others and the different folks, mostly just because they're poor. Back to the article. One park in particular, Desert Vista Park, has been caught. One park in particular, Desert Vista Park, has caught GJPD's attention. That's Grand Junction Police Department's attention. Located in the median between Ute and Picnickin, where the Interstate I-70 business loop splits into one-way streets on either side. People have been congregating in the park of late, including setting up tents. Commentary. Can't be any more highly visible than with the interstate highway zipping by on either side of a park. No wonder they were targeted. When it comes to homeless folks, has to do with visibility, despite what they're prone to tell you in public. Since the city closed nearby Emerson Park to construct a skate park, people have been congregating at Emerson Park since September, when the city closed Whitman Park, which has been a common gathering place for unhoused people. Commentary. It's a lot of park closings. Closing of parks is typically a strategy that is not said out loud in regards to push out visible homelessness. Closing parks is one way in which municipalities use to move homeless people out of sight. Often unneeded, overdue projects suddenly are suddenly available because they know that the homeless who gather there will no longer be able to do so while the park is closed. It is these officials' hope that the homeless community will move along and not return when the park reopens. A practice that gets replicated from city to town to municipality over and over and over again. All righty, back to the article. It makes it very difficult for our staff to go conduct any investigations when they're called out there. Why were you called in the first place? Care to share? What kind of investigations? Kind of vague here. It's likely that the folks called them in the first place were setting up for. It's likely that the folks It's likely that the folks that called them in there in the first place were setting up for a barbecue and falling prey to being scared of obviously homeless folks sharing public space. Just like Smith said, animal control will no longer go to Desert Vista Park because they don't feel safe. Quote, it's not about people being in the parks. Liar, liar. It's about everybody having equal use to the parks, except for the homeless. It's about how we use the parks and the behaviors that we exhibit when we're in those parks. Except for the homeless, somehow equal access doesn't extend to them. Longmont Airport. City attempts to balance housing needs, FAA concerns. Longmont officials are discussing how to balance the city's need for more housing with the federal grant funding rules for the Vance Brand Airport. That's because the proposed developments near airports are seen as an incompatible land use in certain zones, according to the Federal Aviation Administration. The FAA requires cities to restrict land use next to airports to activities and purposes compatible with normal airport operations, including airplanes taking off and landing. In particular, FAA officials, in a letter dated June 13, 2023, said that they had concerns about the Modern West 2, a proposed residential development south of Rogers Road, just east of the Vance Brand Airport. In the one-page letter, the FAA said it may determine the airport's eligibility for grants if specific types of development go forward in these areas close to airport runways. In a follow-up statement to the Times call Friday, FAA spokesman Brittany Trotter said that the FAA discussions with the city of Longmont has not made a decision about the Modern West 2 development. At the same time, Longmont City Council is discussing proposed amendments to a planning document called the Airport Influence Overlay Zone, which includes the area in question. The 2023 FAA letter was included in the City Council's packet of materials for its study session, where the council discussed areas around the airport and how they could be used. Quote, one of the big challenges we have with this particular part of Longmont is that it is one of very few remaining parts of the city with significant vacant developable land, Jennifer Hewitt Anderson, Longmont Principal Manager, said during the May 7th study session. Commentary. What's at concern here is federal aviation safety regulations. We have these regulations because there's a history of bad stuff happening when houses are too close to airports. For example, everything from airplanes missing runways and then crashing into houses that are too close to the airport, to fuel storage risks of explosion, or maybe just the fumes that could make nearby residents sick over time. As a result, to keep people safe from these hazards, we have regulations to protect the people and to restrict the development near airports. However, safety is never a real concern for the real estate lobby. It's always profit. Money. Only money. For example, visible homelessness affects profit, so they argue safety. They don't want to sound like they're opposed to homelessness, so they shame the victims by creating fear, by claiming safety concerns. In this case, very large, dangerous jet fuel tubes flying overhead creates a real safety concern. But the real estate lobby doesn't care about the safety of the people that live in their properties. They just care that they can buy and sell them for profit. The plane happens to crash into them because they're too close to the runway. Oh, well. The fact that the city is continuing to renegotiate, rediscuss, and re-amend the regulations is evidence that they're serving the real estate lobby by working to get the real estate lobby as much access to the land that the real estate lobby wants to develop as possible. Whether or not those potential developments are safe for the people who live there or not. Wash, rinse, repeat.
Political leaders respond by sounding sympathetic to their constituents, but vote with institutions that fund their political campaigns. Wash, rinse, repeat.
A program to move unhoused folks directly into permanent housing secured funding, but sustainability is an issue. A council committee approved a $5 million contract with Housing Connector, a nonprofit that connects people experiencing homelessness to property owners. The proposed funding contract to help move unhoused people directly into permanent housing, yay, passed through a Denver City Council committee. The questions remain on its sustainability and overall budget concerns. The Safety and Housing Committee approved Wednesday the $5 million contract between Denver and Housing Connector, a nonprofit that helps connect people experiencing homelessness and service providers to property owners. Commentary. So it doesn't build more housing stock. It just brokers deals between buyers and sellers, some of whom don't have any money to buy with in the first place. Man. The proposed contract is part of the city's rapid rehousing strategy, all within All Mile High, the mayor's rebranded homelessness initiative. Streets Release is a rapid rehousing program that looks to skip the transitional housing phase and instead move people from encampments directly into permanent housing. Commentary. But in order to do that, you need actual housing units to transition people into. We have a gap problem. Paying $5 million to fund housing brokers is not going to close the gap between supply and demand. Plan is to work with smaller encampments in less centralized areas of the city, said Cole Chandler, the senior advisor for homeless resolution. Though the proposed contract, Housing Connector will perform housing navigation. Isn't that what a case manager is supposed to be doing? And leasing coordination to up to about 250 households over 2 years. Commentary. So only 125 people a year will be housed as a result of this program. We need to be housing thousands of people a year. The scale compared to the need, man, it's all wrong. Not very much bang for that buck. Compare that to what's going on with guaranteed income projects. Just give people enough money in their pockets, and they'll negotiate their own way into housing. A lot more than 125 people have been housed with that for about the same amount of money. Like so many programs that actually house people, funding isn't available at the level needed to meet the need. A bunch of businesses downtown are going to get $500 million for some sort of downtown redevelopment, revitalization project, and we can't even house our homeless. It just seems that a bunch of that nice talk prevents the action at the level that we need.
What do you think?
Former VA Medical Center, they find second life as affordable housing development. As Denver struggles to address a severe lack of affordable housing, some property owners have turned to renovating office buildings and apartments. Others, like GME LLC, have looked to abandon hospitals. The city's Land Use, Transportation, and Infrastructure Committee, one of several lesser bodies that have passed along contracts, bills, and other items to the full city council, okayed a zoning change for the old Veterans Affairs Hospital located at 1055 Claremont Street, blocks away from the Auraria Colorado Boulevard. The abandoned building owned by GME and zoned to be a hospital, meaning that it cannot be used for housing for mixed-use development. Commentary. So rather than support the development of housing, zoning laws like this can handcuff us into preventing the development of needed housing. But in many cases like this one, it's easy enough just to change and update the zoning code. That would include restricting the development of McMansions, high-end luxury stuff, in favor of what we actually need, which is a bunch of budget options. Let's get back to the article. The old hospital has a lot of potential for future residents, city officials said, especially considering the planned Colorado Boulevard bus rapid transit line that the city hopes to implement in coming years. With Luty's approval, the full council will now consider the zoning change. The rehabilitation will follow city guidelines on housing affordability, according to the city staff. Structure will not be destroyed, District 5 Councilwoman Amanda Sawyer said, but she described the inside as a, quote, house of horrors, end quote, and recalling seeing CPR dummies still on the ground in areas. Quote, we've also had a number of community safety issues in the area, and the property owner is partnering with the Denver police to mitigate those. Commentary. So why is the police department needed for mitigating, quote unquote, safety issues? Are they going to reinforce the walls? Are they going to fix exposed wiring and remove trip hazards? Those are safety issues. Trust me, the police are not there for safety issues. The police are there as armed enforcers to remove people. So if there are any homeless, hiding amongst these buildings as a means of shelter, it's the police's job to go there and drive them out. This article just announced that they're going to go in and they're going to sweep them. They're not going to treat the people getting swept like folks that need a place to stay. They're going to use the term safety issues and trespass ordinances in order to treat them like criminals rather than the victims of a housing crisis. Kind of strange when the whole development is intended to be turned into housing. Now, housing for who? And on that point, while the stated intent is to turn the property into housing, other than the 10% required by the inclusionary housing ordinances, none of this housing is likely to be affordable. 90% of it will be market rate or luxury, or they would have announced it for PR, or they would have announced that they would have the low income auctions for PR reasons. They didn't announce it, so it's not there. They have to change the zoning code anyway, so there's no reason that the leadership in our city can't have enough forethought in the process of making such changes to see that we build what we need instead of more, well, of what we can't afford. This project will be certainly full of market rate and luxury housing, despite what you hear about any housing will be an improvement. Without an increase in our budget housing stock and affordable government subsidized stuff, the cost of housing is just going to continue to rise no matter how much they build. We need housing at the low end of the cost scale. What an opportunity to build a lot of it all at once. But no, we need housing on the low end. What an opportunity to build a lot of it all at once. Some older Americans splurge to keep homes accessible, while others struggle to make safety upgrades. Brenda Edwards considers the 4-bedroom ranch-style house where she has lived for 20 years her forever home. It's where the 70-year-old retired nurse and her 79-year-old husband want to stay as their mobility becomes more limited. She hired an interior designer for $20,000 and spent another $95,000 to retrofit their house in Oakdale, California. She had the kitchen and aisles widened to accommodate a wheelchair in case she or her husband ever need one. The bathroom now has walk-in steam shower and electronic toilet that cleans the user when activated. We felt comfortable, Edward said, in explaining why the couple decided to invest in the property instead of downsizing. We have a pool. We have a spa. We just put a lot of love and effort into the yard. We want to stay. But even if they wanted to move, it wouldn't make financial sense, Edward said. Their house is almost paid for. It would be too hard to purchase anything else, she said.
Can you keep a secret?
What do you think?
Thank you for watching the Wright Report Week in Review with your host, Benjamin Wright. That's WRIGHT. Homeless News and Housing Policy, the right way. Links to reference articles available in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to get notifications of upcoming in-depth analysis reports when they become available. Till then, we'll see you next week here at the Wright Report. That's WRIGHT. Homeless News and Housing Policy. the right way.